Year to all of you, and welcome as we call to order tonight's regularly scheduled meeting and first meeting of the year for the Jenks City Council. Today is Tuesday, January 18th, 2022. My name is Corey Box. I'll be your chair for the evening. And let's get underway. Mr. Macy, can you please verify our attendance?
Isabel? Present. Murray? Here. OJ?
Here.
Klein? Present. Short? Here. Kaylin? Here. Mayor Box?
Here. Very well. We are underway at 6:01 p.m. Welcome back, Pastor Wagner. Happy New Year to you, sir. Will you lead us in prayer? Thank you. 2 meetings in a row, by the way. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
You bet, sir.
Heavenly Father, we thank you for the privilege of coming together as we begin a new year. We pray, Lord, for Mayor Box and for all these city council members. Lord, we pray that you would just pour out your blessings on them as they make decisions that affect the city of Jenks. I pray, Lord, for all of those tonight that are sick. So many, Lord, as we continue to read about the epidemic and the pandemic that has taken our city and nation. I pray, Lord, that you would meet every need that's represented in this room tonight. I pray, Lord, that you'd be honored and glorified in the words that are spoken. And may we look to you, Lord, for wisdom as we go through this meeting. And we'll thank you for it in Jesus' name.
Amen. Thank you, Pastor. Please remain standing with us for our pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all very much. And before we open the floor to citizens' comments, would Maddie and Nate, would you like to come forward and tell us what's going on in your world? How are you guys tonight?
Good, how are you?
Make it all official. Tell us your first and last name, why you're here.
I'm Nate Zell, I'm the Jenks FFA Chapter President.
And I'm Maddie Bowman, I'm the Jenks FFA Vice President.
We'd like to invite you guys to our annual Whole Hog Night. It'll be held at the Jenks Middle School. It's Jenks FFA's biggest fundraiser throughout the year. And we just get together with all of our members, their families, and supporters around the city to celebrate the achievements of the FFA chapter, as well as raise some money so we can keep doing the events that we take pride in. We have a dinner that's provided. It's a whole hog, hence the name. We also have a silent auction and several other activities going on. So we'd love your attendance and your support of the Jenks FFA chapter. Thank
Excellent. You. When is it?
It's February 22nd.
Very cool. Thank you guys very much.
I have a question. Are y'all gonna sell political sausage?
Yes, and that's actually going on right now.
Who cooks the hog?
Oh, we have an outside vendor.
Okay.
We've run our
Greg doesn't do it?
Yeah. Greg, you supervising this hog cook? Make sure it reads 160 on the thermometer for.
Thank you.
Thank you all very much. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Happy New Year to y'all. Okay, where were we? Citizens' comments. At this particular point, if you'd like to come and address the council, you are welcome to do so. Good evening and welcome. Just so you know, legally speaking, during citizens' comments, we will not engage you in a conversation. So all we need is your name, your address. Tell us what you'd like to talk about, and one of us will get back to you, but we won't address it tonight, okay? Thank you very much.
Good. Hello,
Happy New Year to
everyone.
you.
My name is Janet Harris. I live at 715 East E Avenue. I'm here once again about getting my street address changed. I could repeat everything I said last month about the frustration and annoyance of having a street name that I have. However, I'm not going to do that due to boredom. I would like to say that I did realize that last month that things can be changed, and there's no point in sticking with whoever dreamed up East E, but rather bring it up to modern standards by giving it a real name. Thanks ahead of time for being open-minded, and thanks for your time this evening.
Thank you. Has anybody ever had this?
discussion with her about this?
I think she came to the planning commission.
Okay, has she had any point in time?
Yeah, in March they was talking about it.
Oh, okay, so is there a potential follow-up there? Or just,
Yeah, March they will.
okay.
Mrs. Hilton, would you mind following up?
Yes.
With Mrs. Harris, if you could, or you can debrief me later if you'd like. Thank you. Good evening. How are you?
Hi, thank you for being here.
Happy
this
New Year.
evening. Oh, same to you. My name is Karen Fiorio, and I live at 713 East E Ave, or possibly Street. Depends on who's sending us a bill, because they don't even have the correct address. My neighbor, Miss Janet, first brought it to my attention. Well, she didn't bring it to my attention. I already knew how frustrating it was. Didn't realize other people were feeling the same thing. So it's just, we got to talking about it and thought, oh, it'd be so much easier if it had a different name. Just mail getting lost. If you tell people you live on East E, they do not believe you. They change your street name all the time. It's kind of like my last name, you know, like, I'm really good with it. I can spell it, pronounce it, matches my license, but people change the spelling all the time. And same with the street. I am not Karen Fiorio on D Street. I'm Karen Fiorio on E Street. So I was just reiterating what my neighbor had to say about the frustration of the street name and lost mail and what have you. So, that's all.
Thank you, Mrs. Fiorio. Just curious, do we have any idea how many homes are on whatever it was, East E or whatever? Yeah, is there? I know, I'm just curious. You don't have to get up.
I do not know off the top of my head. We
Okay.
have looked at it as a staff, and it doesn't just, it's not just within the downtown, it extends beyond
Okay,
the downtown. So
gotcha.
there are quite a number of homes within that area.
Thank you. You can debrief me on it later if you could. Thank you.
Am I allowed to say something else? Should I come up?
Yes, please come back up.
Sorry. As far as how many houses are on the street, I know most of this area is a grid. E Street is not. It has like 4 or 5 different sections. Does not cut through at all. We live on the little tiny section that's right behind the Riverwalk. But that's it's actually a cul-de-sac that leads to a cul-de-sac. And there's, I would say, maybe 15 houses on that street. I mean, it'd be great if you could just change our section. Cause I know the whole EE would be a lot more difficult, but even in, you know, in stages or pieces at a time. But anyway, that's for how many houses.
Thank you very much. Have a good evening. Any other citizens' comments? Okay, very well. We'll close the floor. Get underway. Item number 1 is consideration and appropriate action relating to a request for approval of the consent agenda. Is there a motion on item 1?
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a proper motion and second on the consent agenda. Let's vote, please.
Isabel,
Yes.
Murray. Yes. Short, or OJ,
Yes.
Klein,
Yes.
Short,
Yes.
Galen, Mayor Box.
Yes. Well, item 2. Item 3 is JZ 21-675, a request by Dutch Brothers of rezoning a piece of property to CG or commercial general location being 305 South Elm Street. Mrs. Hilton, you're on page 133 if you have a agenda you'd like to follow along with.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Council, and staff. The first 2 items, I wrote 1 staff report, and you saw it twice, so there were 3 items total. The lot split lot combination request and the replat were both on the consent, and you have approved them. So this is a new business to our community. It's Dutch Brothers Coffee, and if you haven't been by there yet, I found their dirty chai to be quite lovely. The property was originally owned by a flooring company, and they had worked out a lease agreement with the city of Jenks, and that allowed for their additional parking requirements, allowed them to meet the additional parking requirements. When Dutch Brothers purchased the property, they asked if we were interested in selling it. At that time, the city was not, so they were fine to go into an agreement for a lease, and you all approved that last year. They moved forward through planning. They did not need to rezone, got the building built, and just as we're getting to the finish line and about to open, they said, hey, do you guys want to sell it? Again, so I was like, well. And you all approved, I think, last month, the sell of that little piece at the back. But from a legal perspective, that required a lot split from the entire park, and then a lot combination, which will actually be done through the replatting process. And then we're gonna rezone, which is what is before you right now. So the lot split is approved, the replatting is already ready to go, and they are asking, and staff has recommended approval with a 5-2 vote by the planning commission, 2 members being absent, approval of the change from ag to commercial general.
Thank you, Mrs. Helton. If there's any questions from the council, please turn your mic on. All right, we have no questions from council. Thank you, Mrs. Helton. Any questions, concerns from the public for item number 3, rezoning? Very well, no comments, no questions. We can entertain a motion for item number 3.
I'll make a motion to approve JZ 21-675 request by Dutch Brothers of the rezoning a piece of property CG, general location 305 South Elm.
Very well, we have a proper motion and a second for item 3. Let's vote, please.
Isbell?
Yes.
Murray?
Yes.
OJ?
Yes.
Klein?
Yes.
Short?
Yes.
Taylor?
Yes.
Mayor Box?
Yes. Item 4 is ordinance number 1574, related to JZ 21-675, rezoning a piece of property to commercial general. Page 145, is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
A second.
We have a motion and second for item 4. Let's vote, please.
Isbell?
Yes.
Murray?
Yes.
OJ?
Yes.
Klein?
Yes.
Short?
Yes.
Taylor?
Yes.
Mayor Box?
Yes. Item 5 is the emergency clause for ordinance number 1574. Is there a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and second for item 5. Let's vote.
Isbell?
Yes.
Murray?
Yes.
OJ?
Yes.
Klein?
Yes.
Short?
Yes.
Taylor?
Yes.
Mayor Box?
Yes. Item 6 is the wastewater treatment plant project construction status update from Mr. Floyd. We're on page 147, if you'd like to follow along.
Mayor and city councilors, this presentation will be an update on the wastewater treatment plant, phase 1 improvements construction project. Apologize for I noticed that this morning, the typo there, it's wastewater treatment plant, not plan. Sorry about that. As a reminder, this is the first of 3 phases of improvements recommended by the wastewater treatment plant master plan, which will take place over the next 20 years as the population of Jenks approaches build-out population level. Construction began in June of last year. At this point, the project schedule is a little over 25% of the total way there, and the project is on schedule and is set to reach the expected completion date on time. The amount invoiced to date is also a little over 25% as well. This slide shows the existing site plan. Phase 1 construction to date has seen a change in the site plan. In Area 15, if you kind of look over here, my little pointer will show you where Area 15 is. That's this area kind of right in the middle. That's the abandoned clarifiers. Those have been removed, so they're no longer there. And the reason that those were to be removed is to make way for the new electrical building that will be going basically in this location, right here. So the next slide, this is the proposed site plan. The areas that have noticeable change on the proposed site plan is right over here, and I'll show you some pictures on the following slides of what these kind of look like right now. But this is the headworks facility. Headworks bar screen and effluent channel is in this building here. Most of what you'll see, or the biggest part of what you'll see change-wise, is right there. The next thing is the cable tray foundations. They'll show up in the pictures, little round pier foundations sticking up out of the ground. And you'll see those around the aeration basin, kind of right in here. And then lastly, the electrical building. The foundation slab has been poured. The electrical building is right there. And so those are the main things that you'll see on the pictures as what has been accomplished so far. So here's the first picture. This is kind of the overall view of the construction progress. I want to give a shout out to the police department drone who took the 3 of the following 4 pictures that you'll see. So thank you very much, police department, Katie Butterfield, for your help on that. So what we have here is, this is the area where the headworks facility is getting built. The existing headworks is right here, so hopefully you'll get kind of a scale of how much we're increasing the capacity of this facility here versus what you see there. And then just to give a frame of reference, the new electrical building will be back in this area. This is the aeration basin, so the little foundation piers you'll see will be around that. This next slide's a little bit closer view, so you can see kind of down into the headworks building. The bottom slab was poured last year, and it has been leak tested on the bottom. What you see here is a lot of reinforcing steel sticking up, and that's what's going to go inside the walls that'll be inside the headworks facility. Here you kind of see the little dots around the aeration basin. That's the pier foundations I was talking about earlier. Those are going to support the cable tray. So we'll have an elevated cable tray that will take cable connections from this building and around this structure and over to the electrical building. And an even closer view of the headworks facility. A stat that you might find interesting, the headworks building, once it's done, will contain about 230 tons of reinforcing steel. So you see it kind of laid out here and here, but there was a lot more steel that was in the part that's already been poured, as well as 1,600 cubic yards of concrete. So this will be quite a substantial structure. A lot of it's underground, and so when you drive by it, once it's complete, there's a large portion of this facility that you won't even see. These are sheet pile foundations that piers that they had to put down to kind of help isolate this structure. And you can see some of this piping that's along here. That's to take the groundwater out, so it can make it easier for them to do all this underground work. And lastly, this picture was taken on the ground level, and this was taken last month. This is the slab for the electrical building. When this building is complete, it'll house some of the electrical equipment that is currently in the lab building, as well as some additional equipment for the new facilities that are going in. Are there any questions about where we are with construction?
Any questions for Mr. Cloyd? Councilor Lynn? Oh, it's not your mic. No questions for Mr. Cloyd? Has everybody had a chance to visit this fine facility? Not Mr. Murray? Everybody else? No. I would say for the counselors that haven't yet visited, you schedule something in mid-June. On a very windy day, when the gusts are blowing,
And it's
let's
muddy
get
too.
Mr. Murray and Mr. Isbell out there.
The reason I'm laughing is because it will be a little
Aromatic.
aromatic. Yes,
Yeah.
that's a good word, Counselor.
Ambiance.
Yeah, I
Sound
got
like a
suckered
plan?
into that when I was first on council.
Well, I appreciate the hard work. I think it's good for us to see this. When I walked this a week ago, it's a reminder of how damn expensive it is it's crazy expensive to keep this thing running, and I wish every taxpayer knew what a hassle it is to make the water clean and why we pay all these taxes, because that place is it's like going to the Discovery Channel or Dirty Jobs. It's pretty interesting. I appreciate the tour, by the way, and make sure you hit these guys up in June when they're nice and ready. All right, thank you, Mr. Cloyd. We appreciate it. This was simply a discussion, so we will move on to item number 7. Item 7 is the amendment from Marquardt Engineering for the additional services for South Elm Street, the South Elm Street project, which is revising the roadway alignment for the South Mile, which is from 121st Street to 131st Street, and splitting the project into 2 individual mile projects in the amount of $106,950. Funding for the same to be paid by the Jenks Vision Sales Tax Fund and account number 337505393, also known as Fund 33, the Jenks Vision Tax Projects, Roads and Bridges. Mr. Cloyd, we're on page 155.
Mr. Mayor, City Councilors, the memo for this agenda item lists the original contract scope and the amended scope of amendment number 1 to the Elm Street widening project design. For amendment 2, staff has requested that Marquardt Engineering provide another contract amendment that would revise the design of the South Elm Street from 121st to 131st Street so that the roadway alignment would extend west between these 2 mile markers and split the single 2 projects into 2 individual 1 mile projects. The reason for moving the alignment west is that this would cause a utility relocation and construction disturbance for the developed properties to the east side of Elm Street to be a lot less. We avoid a lot of some of the issues that we might encounter, keeping it where we had in the original design. The reason for splitting the 2 mile project into 2 1 mile projects is to attempt to start construction on the north mile sooner, because almost all of the right-of-way have been acquired for that section of the project. Page 2 of the memo lists the design costs to do these things. Staff requests approval of contract amendment from Marquardt Engineering for the additional services in the amount of $106,950. Are there any questions?
Any questions from council? Please turn on your mic. Mr. Murray.
And you may not be able to answer it offhand, but I know it's been discussed among a few people. I know we're at the mercy of a lot of times of the utility companies to come in and do their thing. But if they're talking about starting this one before the other one, which is all well and good, let's get something going. Why is AT&T putting fiber next to the roadway at 111th and Elm, knowing it's going to be widened? To me, that's a double Dutch. They're going to spend more money to go back, and it's just going to cause us to be delayed. Could we not have put a stop to that at some point, or?
Well, they still, but there is, I mean, I don't know, I can't remember the church on the west side of the road. I mean, they've started this project before we did have everything acquired, I believe. And, yeah, and they're going to be, I mean, I don't know that we have all of that worked out to tell them exactly where to go at this point.
Well, I know they've been digging it for just the last month or so, and this fund was approved 2 years ago. So, somebody's known about it, I would think, but I don't know if they needed to come to the city before they started digging it or what they need to do. I just hate to see the cost that's going to cost somebody, and the fact that it's going to be delayed, knowing that they've buried all of this and they're going to have to come back and dig it up and relocate it.
I have a meeting later this week with AT&T. It'll be the first meeting that I've had a chance to meet with them, and that's one of the questions I have for them is what their plan is to do on that. You bring up a good point, and it's been pointed out, and I've yet to kind of work that out with AT&T and discover why they're doing that.
Well, and I appreciate it. I know some of the problems we've had with them in some of the residential areas and potentially more, I know Councilor Klein's getting it in his area, but yeah, anything we can kind of find out. But if we're ready to kind of get this rolling, I hate to see that we're going to have to be put on hold again so they can, oh, wait a minute, we just put new court, we got to move it. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
That's a good question.
And when you're in that meeting with them, as best you can, make it clear that it doesn't matter who's the mayor. There's probably not a councilman anywhere in the future that's going to approve any additional expense if they continue on this path and bury this line. There's no change order coming. There's not one more dime for a telecom company to rebury a line that they know is going to have to be dug up in a year and a half. So whoever's the mayor, we're not paying any more money, and I don't think the taxpayers want to pay that bill either. But it is of interest why they must have an aggressive fiber optic goal to go ahead and do this, and knowing that they're going to dig it up again. But
isn't that our right of way though? I mean, if they're burying it a foot off of the road, that's our right of way. They're going to have to bear the cost of relocating that. It's not that the citizens
kind of saying it out loud just in case there's some sleight of hand where they come back and ask for more money. But I am curious. So you guys requested this project be cut into 2.
Well,
so this is a
staff
request.
Clarify, correct, but these are options. So
Okay.
we're not saying we're voting to approve that we're going to do either one of these. These are, can we please get engineering options designed for these? Because, I
Okay.
mean, who knows if we do acquire the land on the south quicker than we anticipated, the utilities on both miles could potentially be done at the same time. So I wouldn't say that this is just a request for the engineer to come up with these options.
Now, as you being an engineer, when you saw the $24,500 price tag to split this in two, does that make sense to you? What are we getting for $24,500?
Basically takes the project that you've got now and it splits it in two, so you're treating it like two different projects. You have two different sets of plans, you have two different sets of bidding documents. So the costs that go along with making it into two different
So they need
projects.
another manila folder to stick the other papers in?
And if you think about the intersections and how
Yeah.
that interrelates to the construction, you know, it's potentially a pretty big deal.
So this makes sense to you? This cost is reasonable?
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, that's all I needed.
Yeah, and we have, as a part of the vision extension, we had $1.5 million for engineering and right-of-way acquisition for this project when it was only a little over a mile, and it's now 2 miles, and we're still within, I think we're at 1.1 million of that engineering and right-of-way acquisition, so we still have money available even after this, so.
Okay. Very well. Any more questions for Mr. Cloyd?
Does this have any effect on
Mrs.
the
Ojai.
bond that was passed?
No.
As far as if it ends up spending a lot more money on this 1 mile, are we gonna have enough money to spend to get the other mile done?
Everything from our projections on the budget and the construction costs, we're within the amount that we had requested with the bond issue.
Okay.
Very well. If there's no more questions, we can entertain a motion to approve the change order for item number 7.
Motion to approve item number 7.
Second.
We have a proper motion and second. Let's vote, please.
Isbell?
Yes.
Murray?
Yes.
Ojai?
Yes.
Klein?
Yes.
Short?
Yes.
Kaylin?
Yes.
Mayor Box?
Yes. Item 8 is an agreement between the Union Pacific Railroad Company, Tulsa Sapulpa Union Railway Company, and the City of Jenks for permitting the B Street Sidewalk project construction and payment of a fee in the amount of $12,175. Funding for the same to be paid from the Jenks Vision Tax Projects Fund, account number 337505393, and authorize the mayor to execute the document. Mr. Cloyd, page 162.
Mr. Mayor, excuse me. Mr. Mayor, City Councilors, this project was, as you said, is funded by the Jenks Vision Tax Project Fund. Just to give you a little bit of a timeline of how this goes, because you're probably asking yourselves, wait, this is already in place, why is this coming along? Let me build a little case for you. Here it is, public record. Staff submitted a review request with the Union Pacific Railroad on January 30th, 2020 for this section of sidewalk. A meeting with the design consultant and the railroad occurred on May 28th of 2020, and this sidewalk project was constructed by Magnum Construction in the summer of 2020. And now, on December 20th of 2021, so we finally received the attached agreement between the city, Union Pacific Railroad, and Tulsa Sapulpa Railroad Company. Some of the conditions of this agreement are listed in this memo. Although the project construction has already been completed, the railroad is charging a permitting fee in the amount of $12,175. Upon execution of this agreement and payment of the fee, I've been told by the railroad no other review or approval will be needed from the railroad on this project, and they'll consider this complete. So, considering this, well, we need to, I know it's already done, but we need to get this done for our records and make it official. It's kind of the gist I get from this. So, staff is requesting that this agreement between Union Pacific Railroad Company, Tulsa Sapulpa Union Railroad Company, and the city of Jenks for this, the B Street Sidewalk project, and authorize the mayor to execute the document.
This is a permitting fee.
Yes.
Does it seem reasonable?
No. But about everything that we get from the Union Railroad that I've seen is $10,000 just to look at things. This is what they charge.
So this is $12,000 for them to pick up that stamp and put the ink on the paper?
That's how I understand it.
And we're powerless to reject them.
I believe so.
Okay.
Is it negotiable?
Well, we could, and then maybe next year we'll find out.
It's
No, you
twice
can't
as
do that.
much.
Yeah, and I'd like to thank State Senator Cody Rogers, because I think Josh Driscoll and I were talking to him about different projects, might have been in November or December, and he said he knew someone at Union Pacific, and we brought this up to him, and then he said that he talked to the person he knew, and so I think they said they didn't realize they had the document, so I think he got this thing moving for us, so it wasn't, to my knowledge, moving very quickly.
No.
So
We just didn't get the Senator Rogers discount? Okay. Any other questions from council?
Okay, I have a quick question.
Mr.
Are
Short.
these numbers, are they inside the budget? Do we know that this fee was gonna be charged when we did the project? Was it delayed out?
I don't know if it was or not, Counselor. But I think going into anything dealing with the railroad, there's a budget amount for permitting fees that are typically brought up. But when we're looking at like the 106th Street Extension project, that's what we work with the design consultant and talk, take a look at what they're.
Fees into it. We just don't know the exact dollar amount, so this isn't a surprise, other than it's just a surprise.
It's a surprise, but it's not a surprise.
Thank you, Mr. Cloyd. If there's no other questions on item number 8, we can entertain a motion for approval.
I'll move to approve.
We have an enthusiastic motion and a second on item number 8. Let's vote, please.
There's not a whole lot we can do about it. And we have another
That's why I said enthusiastic.
situation.
Isabel?
Yes.
Murray?
Yes.
OJ?
Yeah.
Klein?
Yes.
Short?
Yes.
Kaylin?
Yes.
Mayor Box?
Yes, item 8 is approved. On to other business, city manager's report. Mr. Shroud.
Mayor and all members of council, we still have a couple more events coming up this month. One was canceled, the INCOG legislative reception for tomorrow night has been canceled due to the kind of resurgence of COVID. We do have the Jenks Chamber Lunch tomorrow, we have the Chamber Banquet Thursday night, and we have the Tulsa Chamber's annual meeting next Wednesday. I believe it's on Wednesday. So again, I think some of you have responded to Sarah, but if you plan to attend any of those, please let her know. I think the RFP last Monday went very well. We've already had some feedback from developers that are interested, so hopefully they'll go through the process of putting that together, but so far everything has been pretty positive on that. And Marseille has been extremely busy these last couple of weeks with the UDO. She's been spending a lot of time meeting with constituents, specifically around the downtown area. And, we had originally planned to bring the UDO before council tonight, but we decided to delay that so that we could get more feedback from the public. And Marseille, I don't know if you have anything to add about what you're thinking on the timeline.
Right. Thank you all for all the time that you all have spent looking at the document, reading the document. In May, it will be a 3-year process. And I hope that by May, we will have the opportunity to have it adopted. But at this point, we're going to visit with Halcyon Levine this week and just talk about what the original vision was, how we're moving forward, and whatever other community input and conversations we need to have. I will probably be setting up more of an open house type setting again. Currently, I've met with 5 individuals and talked with most of them many minutes, an hour. And instead of just meeting individually over and over and over and over, I think it would be more productive to have a larger conversation. So I'll be setting that up and letting you know. At this point, the public will probably know because it will be on the planning commission agenda before it comes to city council. If not, we'll put it out on social media. I want to be very transparent moving forward. This is not something we're trying to jam down anybody's throat. This has been a long process with a lot of public input. You all were a part of it far before I was, and I'm excited to get it adopted, but we need to just pause just for a little bit and see if we can help people understand what's taking place.
What are you thinking for the open house, more or less?
I'd like to get through my final edits and get those implemented before I do another open house, so I'm thinking February and then maybe bringing it back in March.
Okay, and let's spare no efforts, given that most of the concerns come from Ward 1. Let's communicate the heck out of this if we can, however that looks, however it is. I think Councilor Lynn has agreed to go door to door. Thank you, Councilor Lynn. You heard me, right?
Pardon?
Did you? Oh, never mind. We'll talk about it later.
What did I miss?
You agreed to go door to door, knocking on doors to let her.
No, my phone's been ringing and texting.
Okay, good enough. Thank you.
No, seriously, because my neighbors are wanting me to have a town hall, and I just finished talking to Marcia about just specific, because I can't speak like she can.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're working on it.
Good deal. Thank you. Anything else, Mr. Shrout? Okay, Mr. Isabel, anything from INCOG?
Yes, we had a meeting last Tuesday, and I've got some notes here. The Surface Transportation Block Grants, STBG, requests open in February, and they're due in March and April. I'm sure that the city staff is well aware of that, but it was announced in the staff report at INCOG. The Build Back Better 2 allotment is approximately $70 million available and must be filed in the first quarter. The city manager was at the meeting and got all these notes, so I'm not telling him anything he doesn't already know. The election board is renumbering the precincts in Tulsa County, and we won't have to re-register, but keep an eye on where you will go to vote, because that's coming soon. The Deputy Director of OMMA, the Oklahoma Medical Marijuana Authority, was present and gave us an update on OMMA. The dispensary numbers are decreasing statewide. They're being weeded out, if you will.
You waited all week to say that.
The need for the dispensaries has saturated the market, basically. The growers in the state of Oklahoma, more marijuana is grown than can supply the card-carrying patients in the state of Oklahoma. So that's going to be under investigation, try to figure out where all that's going. The OMMA is developing 6 districts in the state of Oklahoma with 64 inspectors to be hired and manage grow facilities and dispensaries. There are 2 CLEAT certified officers housed or officed in Tulsa County at this time, and there will be more. The majority of the growing facilities are in green country, as it were. The western half of the state is a little dry. Let's see. He spoke briefly about House Bill 2646, which became effective 11/1/21 last November, establishing a proficiency testing lab for quality assurance for all the labs across Oklahoma. To be able to sell the product, you have to have it lab certified with percentages, and there will be one single lab certification lab in the state of Oklahoma. They're also monitoring additional legislation to prohibit grow facilities near schools, parks, etc. I did ask the question, will those currently in proximity be grandfathered in, and the answer was yes. I shared my disagreement with that, but if you want to get more information, please contact or go online and look for OMMA and ask questions there. The next item that we discussed was the Federal Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, IIJA. Recently enacted bipartisan infrastructure law reauthorized federal surface transportation programs for the next 5 years. We will have extra money in the state of Oklahoma, specifically Tulsa County, Jenks, and the surrounding area, for the next 5 years based on allocations in the last 2. NCOG will submit a summary of the programs with an emphasis on the major programs that will be available to local governments in the region. Keep an eye out for this one, it's coming soon. I had a couple of thoughts with that, and I haven't shared them with the city yet, or the city manager. This might allow us to have a little bit of money for the expenses in the wastewater treatment plant and or possibly enhancements to the aquarium, who knows? So those are my thoughts on the meeting last Tuesday. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Any committee reports? Okay, very well. A little update. As you guys know, Vice Mayor Ogier has been working hard for quite a while on, as our project manager, so to speak, for the potential of Tulsa County building a toll bridge in South Tulsa. We had a significant little good news event in a meeting that happened last week. And for the first time, this meeting has now been under the supervision, if you will, of NCOG. So NCOG did invite the city of Bixby, Jenks, the city of Tulsa, the Creek Nation, and Tulsa County. And the good news is that the city of Bixby had proposed a revenue study be accomplished to determine if the bridge could even make enough money to be worth building. Stop me at any point if I'm misspeaking, for those of you that were there. So that revenue study was in the neighborhood of $130,000. Initially, the cost would have been split between the 5 parties. And the good news is NCOG has agreed to pay 80% of the total, and the other 5 parties will split the remainder. So our bill just probably dropped by $20,000, courtesy to NCOG. If you guys don't have a relationship with Rich Briere yet, always go and shake his hand and thank him for the work they do down there. And you can usually find him at the Tulsa Chamber annual meeting, which is in a week or two, whenever the city manager said it was. So thank him for the work, because it just saved us a lot of money. And when the study is done, we will make the decision whether or not it's even worth pursuing and spending all our time and energy chasing a bridge that has been discussed probably for 50 years. And 20, well, I've heard it was longer, but it doesn't matter. It's been discussed for a long time, and strangely enough, we are on the potential verge of making it a reality if things go well. So for those of you that I asked earlier in the day, Jenks has a new Eagle Scout. I didn't realize how hard it was to become an Eagle Scout. Apparently, it's a very, very small percentage of scouts ever make it to that rank. I became aware, you guys know, there was a fire last week. What's the name of the church? What's the church? Yeah, right behind First Methodist. As you guys drive into Jenks, you see that building with the sign, and that has been the home for Scout Troop 185 for, I guess, a number of years. Well, obviously, it did burn. The fire department did a very, very good job of keeping that building structurally sound and salvageable. Unfortunately, from what I hear, the building may have been underinsured, so financially, it's probably not going to be the future home of anybody. But I appreciate all you guys getting the word out to try to find the Scouts a new home. I think the pastor of the church has extended an offer. I don't know if the offer is permanent, which is why I have not killed that Facebook post for support, because I'd like to hope the Scouts have a couple backup options if they can. But as a result of that meeting, they have invited us to come and honor their new Eagle Scout in March, and I would think it'd be great if I could get you to do that, Mr. Murray. It's nice to have a mayor give you an award, but I think it's more honorable for a Scout to have another Eagle Scout do it. So if you could be a part of that, and I think we could invite the council as well if it's something local. If you guys can make it, that'd be great. Other than that, as a reminder for those of you that are working on it, our city manager does need a review. We need to get that done soon because the city will be presenting us with an option for further his employment contract. So that is all I have. Any last minute comments before we adjourn? Going once? Very well. Let's go ahead and have a motion for adjournment.
I move to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Let's vote, please.
Isabel?
Yes.
Murray?
Yes.
Bojek?
Yes.
Klein?
Yes.
Short?
Yes.
Kaylin?
Yes.
Mayor Box?
Yes, we are adjourned at 6:45 PM. Okay, we will call to order the Jenks Public Works Authority. Roll call, please.
Isabel?
Present.
Murray? Here. Bojek?
Here.
Klein?
Present.
Short?
Here.
Kaylin?
Here.
Mayor Box?
Here. Item number 1, consideration and appropriate action relating to a request for approval for tonight's consent agenda.
Motion to approve.
Yeah, wait. I have, I'm gonna pull D.
It's D as in dog, D as in delta. Okay. Very well, we will pull item D. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda with the exception of item D or letter D?
Motion to approve all but item D at this point.
Second.
We have a proper motion and second. Let's vote, please.
Isabel?
Yes.
Murray?
Yes.
Bojek?
Yes.
Klein?
Yes.
Short?
Yes.
Kaylin?
Yes.
Chair Box?
Yes, sir. Item D, approve a quote from Absolute Water Pumps for a 6-inch trash pump for $32,693 for the Public Works Department. Funding for the same to be paid by the fiscal year 21-22 budget. 1 cent capital fund, sewer maintenance, machinery, and heavy equipment. Councilor Lynn.
I just need somebody to explain what a water pump is and where it's gonna be used and how it's gonna be used.
Yes, ma'am. Mr. Carr, I think looks like this is one that you want. Good evening, sir.
Good evening. Counselor, to answer your question directly, it's a trash pump is a piece of equipment that is used when we need it. It's used for construction projects or repair projects. And a big one, a 6-inch one, can pump a lot of water. A good example of where we were using a pump was over here at the library, and we had to dig down deep, and there was water down there that we had to try and pump out or pump around from the sewer. We needed a pump like that in order to transfer that water. Usually it might be used during a water line break, and you're trying to get the water out of the hole so you can do the repairs. And the equipment that we've had is getting very old, and we needed a new pump.
So this would be to replace what was used in my alley when they had to pump all the way down to replace my sewer line.
It very likely could have been, yes.
Because
Yeah.
they had a pump going forever.
Yeah.
So is this still functional?
Well, the one that we're replacing would probably not be functional or wouldn't be able to pump what it was designed for. So we needed a new one. We put it in this year's budget, and that's why it says it's paid for out of the existing budget, because we've never ordered it yet.
Well, when it said, trash pump, that threw me for a loop too. So
Well, that's what they
water
call
and
them.
trash.
That's what they call them, trash pumps.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Carr. Any other questions on letter D? Okay, I can entertain a motion to approve letter D of
Make a
item 1.
motion that we approve item D for the purchase of this absolute water pump.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Let's vote, please.
Isabel?
Yes.
Murray,
Yes.
Ogier,
Yes.
Klein,
Yes.
Short,
Yes.
Caitlin,
Yes.
Chair Box.
Yes. Mr. Carr, just so you know, I think Mike Sharp might have like 3 used ones of these in his shed in the back if you need one ever again. Save you a bunch of money, okay?
Okay, I'll pass that on.
All right, anything else on the general manager's report? Mr. Shrout?
I would just say that we continue to work on these road projects. Some are in the design phase, some are in the right-of-way acquisition. We have Elwood that we're working on from 111th to 96th Street. We have obviously Elm Street that we're trying to tackle. And then we have 106th Street extending from Elm to the River District. As I think I mentioned last month, we met with the owners of the property that this would affect, Dwayne Phillips, Steve Eaton, and then the River District folks, and try to get their input. Robert and his team are working with the design engineer to try to get some sort of alignment that everybody can kind of agree on. And then also we have to take into account the outlet mall and the traffic coming off the traffic circle. And so there's a lot that goes into this one road. There's at least 2 bridges, more than likely, one over Polecat and one over Wilmot Creek, and the railroad to deal with. So it's a challenging project, but we hope to move forward as quickly as we can on this, anticipating that Simon will most likely be moving forward hopefully sometime in 2022. So that's kind of some of the bigger projects that we've been working on road-wise. And if you have any questions or input, we also have the transportation master plan draft document that we'll be presenting to council at some point, but we're still working with the engineers on that. And so I know that, like, for instance, Councilor Short had a question about, streets or traffic in the downtown area. And I think now would be a really good time, if there is any input, to talk to us about that now. So when we're in this transportation, reviewing the draft document, so.
I have a question on I call it what do you call it, the turnabout now?
We have the roundabouts and the Texas turnaround.
I never know what, but the one that was created there at the entrance of the Someday Outlet Mall is being damaged.
Yeah.
And who is going to be responsible for fixing that?
Well, that's something that we're going to look at when we look at the alignment of the 106 coming off of Elm and into the River District. But I think, our conversation is that roundabout might be too small, and that's why when you say it's being damaged, because trucks or other vehicles are going over the curbs, and so that's something we'll be evaluating. But I don't have any comments necessarily on that at the moment.
Well, I just wondered where the money was gonna come from and how it was gonna be paid for and stuff, because they're just huge chunks of curbs.
Yeah.
Along those lines, can you guys investigate the cost of a reflective paint that you could put around the curb on the roundabout out there? Hopefully I'm not the only one who's ever driven up on the curb at night. I use that roundabout multiple times a week, and when it's dark, it's very dark over there.
Which one? The south?
The one right in front of the aquarium.
That one.
The one right in front of the, of the Simon property.
Yeah.
It's very dark, and I don't mind it all the time, but it's damaged because I see a lot of people hitting the curb. And if my wife hits it in her car, then it's gonna be hell to pay.
Well, there's trailers too. I mean, I followed a guy
Yeah.
had a trailer, and the trailer just rode.
Yeah.
Seriously, the whole circle around was up on the concrete.
But at night, I literally look at the curb and try to it's very difficult to stay off that curb. You can't see where you're going. Throw some glow paint on there. Does that
glow
exist?
in the dark. We'll do the
Does that
glow in the
exist?
dark.
I'm sure it does.
Let's find some.
You would have like a landing, you know, there, the lights for the landing.
Sure, light it up like Chicago O'Hare.
Just checking, thought we'd clarify that.
I can't even imagine the people driving that turn after they leave the bar.
You just need to get a vehicle that drives itself.
No, no thanks. All right, looks like item number 2 under other business is the monthly chamber report, and Mr. Josh Driscoll is here to.
Mr. Chair, members of the authority, it's a pleasure to be here this evening. Everyone who made it out, the city manager mentioned it earlier to the library announcement, I think it was a well-received event, really phenomenal press coverage. We made front page Tulsa World and they didn't attack us over anything. It was a minor miracle, so. The TV coverage is good, a lot of positive feedback. To the manager's point, we've received we've had a number of conversations with developers that are planning on submitting for the RFP process, so I think that's an exciting win for all of us. December, as many of you know, in business is not always the most exciting month, but got a couple of quick highlights and then a couple of things not on here I want to hit. We're continuing to build our relationship with the Small Business Development Center. We've got about 7 different acronyms that we're dealing with, and they get very confusing after a while. About bringing in some small business training seminars we can offer to businesses in Jenks. One of the ones we're talking to them now is a marketing class, kind of a marketing 101 on a limited budget, which seems to be a recurring problem. If you look at the business checkup, that's something that pops up a lot as issues, not knowing how to market, budget for market, and how to do things like that. Something, I think some of you know Mitchell Sims, he's a local entrepreneur, app developer here in Jenks. He and Zach are working on creating kind of a startup, I don't want to call it a club, but a startup group for people looking at starting their own businesses or doing so, especially more work from home type things, and kind of getting in front of them, finding out what they need. Is co-working space something they're interested in? What resources are they looking for, and kind of what needs to happen there? So we're looking forward to that coming to fruition. Some things that aren't here because they've happened since January 1. Manager mentioned we have our banquet Thursday night. We're looking forward to seeing folks there. The principal chief of the Muskogee Nation and the second chief will be joining us, so that's nice. This will be the first time we've had them in attendance at that event, so we're looking forward to welcoming them and having some good conversation. And then I mentioned this to the manager last week. I had lunch with a staffer from Senator Inhouse's office, and I'll be following up with Mr. Carr and Mr. Cloyd next week about potential federal assistance for some of our projects, specifically the Low-Water Dam and the Main Street Highway 75 corridor. Jared Ward felt like there may be some money out there that we could use for some of the environmental studies and things like that that sometimes get us caught up and slow things down. So I'll be talking with them and hopefully getting a meeting with Jared that we can discuss ways that hopefully, if the money's sitting out there, we can get a hold of. And then working maybe long-term on some projects that we'd be looking for federal assistance on as well. But with that, I will stop and open up to questions or bad jokes.
Any questions for Mr. Driscoll? Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. If that's all, then we will entertain a motion for adjournment.
Second.
We have a motion and second on adjournment. Let's vote, please.
Isabel?
Yes.
Murray?
Yes.
OJ?
Yes.
Klein?
Yes.
Short?
Yes.
Kaylin?